guys. All right. Do we have any more Trump supporters in the audience? Who wants to debate on abortion here? I'll let you take over for me. I gotta grab some food. I just looked at the clock and realized it's 4 and I haven't ate yet today. No, I haven't ate my plate yet. I know, I'm terrible. I know. I'll be back in around 10 minutes. Parker's gonna take over and have a debate on abortion. Anyways, but one last thing before I go eat real quick. Thank you to everybody for showing up here today. I mean, this is beyond my wildest dreams.
For sure. So yeah, like what would you want to bring up about abortion?
Yeah, I think abortion is something that should be illegal at the federal level, in nearly almost all aspects.
You want to speak into the mic a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, that's a lot better. Thank you. Yeah, my argument is that abortion should be illegal in nearly all circumstances. I think that all human individuals beginning at conception have the right to life, and I think that should be protected.
Okay, so do you think that women who have been assaulted should be able to get access to abortion?
I do. I mean, I do not. I think that the nature of human dignity does not end because of a humanist action.
Okay, so a 10-year-old girl that gets sexually assaulted should be forced to go through a pregnancy if she medically can give birth?
I think insofar as she is capable of bearing the child, I think that we should do everything that we should to preserve the life of the child.
Okay, so then why would they have an obligation given they didn't cause the pregnancy? If I attached a fetus onto you right now or an embryo onto you, do you think you would be obligated to maintain that for 9 months, even at the threat of your life?
I would say yes. I think that as individuals, we have a capacity to care for people to the degree that we can. So for example, if I was like in a burning building and you were in a wheelchair, I should be able to do everything that I can to pull you out of the building.
Okay, so for example, right, you think that everyone has obligations to practically everyone in society to maintain and sustain their life regardless?
No, I think it's to a relative degree, and it's also to like the degree to which you are related, both like via circumstance and like actual like biological relationship.
Okay, so family relation or biology? Because there are stepfathers that you think would have an obligation, or stepmothers that would have an obligation, right?
Yeah, I think it varies, again, on context, I think, but ultimately I think the parents have a obligation to their children, especially biologically.
Okay, and let me clarify the position.
Sure.
Right, if there is no biological relation, do they have an obligation?
It depends on the circumstance, right? Like, I don't have an obligation to save somebody in China right now from falling off a cliff, but if, like, you were, like, having a heart attack, I should call 911.
Okay, so how much relation do you have to have? Because you're technically related to everyone on the planet to some degree.
Correct. Well, I mean, I think at the very least, let's go back to the original circumstance. I think that if the act of killing an individual is something that you should never do.
Wait, but I asked you about relation. How close in terms of relation?
Well, it depends on the action, right? Like, there's
a 10-year-old who gets assaulted, right?
Right.
But you're saying they should be forced to do that pregnancy, even though it is the case they didn't cause that.
Well, the question is, what is the thing within her, right? If it's that's the question that we ultimately have to decide first before we can decide the relative rights that are a consequence of that.
Okay, so you think a zygote is a person?
I would. You're good. Makes you look cooler too.
Yeah, if I slap a zygote, like a single cell organism in a petri dish, should I go to prison?
It depends on how hard. I mean, if you slap me...
How hard I slap it?
I mean, if you slap me gently, I don't think that you should go to prison.
I'm in the single cell organism. I kill it.
Right, yeah, then I think the law should make that the case. I don't think that at this moment, because it's not illegal, I don't think that you should. But I think that should be the law.
So it should be the law that I should go to prison for slapping the zygote?
Correct.
So women who have IUDs should go to prison, correct, as well?
I think contraception is a great evil.
Any women in the chat who have IUDs? So do you think they should be in jail?
Folks, if you haven't already, please make sure that everybody is hitting that follow button. If you don't follow in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to boot you from the line.
Okay, so then
because it's not illegal.
Hit that follow button, folks.
Okay, so if it were the case that it became illegal today, then they should be in prison.
Well, I think that they should stop doing it.
No, then should they be in prison?
No, I think that it should just not be legal to sell. I think like it's like a vendor's thing.
But if it is the case that someone makes their own IUD and puts it in their own body, should they go to prison, given that under your view they are murdering a zygote?
I think there's a question of like determining how did they find this out. I think that would be a breach of privacy if we are like X-raying women en masse. I think that's a bad thing that we shouldn't do.
If they just told you and you put them in prison, like the women who just told us, should they be put in prison, given that you know it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing that like places where drugs are illegal and someone says that I use this drug, you're not going to be prosecuted for it. But if you're caught using that drug, you will be prosecuted for it.
But you don't think people should be put in prison in that context?
Again, I'm more trying to determine the moral argument, and I think
how about this? We're talking about retroactive enforcement.
Right.
Should slave owners have gone to prison when it was legal?
I think they should have made it illegal and then sent them to prison.
Wait, so people who did it when it was legal should not go to prison?
I think that is the grossest evil that somebody could ever commit.
But they should not go to prison?
I think that they should make it so that they have to go to prison. Like, I think they should have instituted laws that said anybody from this point should
Okay,
go
so
to
his
prison.
point is they should, right, go to prison, even though it's currently not illegal. But then when I question him on the IUD point, it's not currently illegal, yet you think that they shouldn't go to prison.
Can we talk about like the actual issue here rather than talking about like the enforcement, retroactive enforcement?
Let me clarify with this.
Because I think eventually,
well, this is really important.
Sure.
A reductio ad absurdum is taking the reasoning that you were just using
I understand.
and applying it to other circumstances. Say, what is the different reason between these circumstances as to why it applies in one, but it doesn't apply in the
I agree.
other? So what's the issue with me doing that? That's not changing the topic. If you know what a reductio ad absurdum is, if you know how I'm questioning your logical positions, well then you would know that I wasn't pivoting or changing the topic or doing
I agree. I'm thinking that it's most important to determine what the zygote is before we try and do lectio ad absurdums.
What do you mean what the zygote is?
Do you think the zygote is a human being?
No.
What is it?
It's a zygote. It's a cellular human life. Single cell organism.
Is the human life alive?
Is it what?
Is the human life alive?
Yeah, cellular life.
Okay, so it is a human.
Cellular human life, yes.
So that is a human being.
Human being is going to relate to personhood, which is predicated off of sentience, which occurs between
Why is
20
it
through
predicated
24
off
weeks.
of sentiences?
Like, for example, brain-dead individuals. Do you think it's murder for a family to pull the plug on an individual in their family that's brain-dead?
There's the difference between allowing death and causing death.
Oh, okay, so then women who get, they take the abortion pill that blocks progesterone from going to the embryo, you think they're murdering it?
No.
So he thinks the abortion pill should be legal. We'll take the lens when they exist.
So the abortion pill works in a couple different ways, and I think depending on the circumstance, it's different. So sometimes it prevents ovulation, sometimes it prevents implantation, and that's...
Yeah.
You can Google this, guys.
Wait.
I'm sorry, it delays ovulation, to be more precise. Okay, you guys can Google this.
So hold up. I'm talking...
Yes, ma'am.
Are you talking about birth control? You think birth control and the abortion pill are the same thing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm speaking of Plan B. I got confused. I apologize.
I was talking about the abortion
I do
pill.
apologize. No, I apologize. I made a mistake.
Yeah, so the abortion pill.
The abortion pill. Yeah, I think the abortion pill does terminate the pregnancy.
And should that be illegal?
Yes.
Okay, but you're not doing it directly because you are stopping the resources from going to it. But you're saying, oh, that's so
Right, but if I
intentionally
stop the air from going into your lungs, it's
so
still
if you
killing
pull
you.
the plug on an individual in your family that's brain dead, is that murder?
No, well, it depends, right?
On what?
So if it depends on if this person is needing artificial equipment to like breathe and things like that, that is what's called beyond natural means of care, right? But I also don't think that we should like starve or dehydrate people to death.
Okay, so my dad, who almost died due to COVID,
Sure.
who relied on medical services to survive, who was sentient, had subjective experiences, if someone in my family pulled the plug on my dad and he died, that wouldn't have been murder?
No, that would okay.
Because he was sentient. So the difference was
No,
that in
actually-
the case of the brain dead individual, they will never have a subjective experience again. So they do not meet the set of criteria of past or present and future subjective experiences. That's what we consider to be valuable. So, but you're saying that it's valuable, the zygote, prior to the point of even having a past or present. So we're just talking about something in the future. And that's no different than a set of conditions where there's a sperm cell on track to fertilize an egg 0.1 second prior to conception. Right, so you're saying some sperm or within a condition in which they are on track to fertilize an egg are considerably valuable within that condition.
So preventing fertilization, I think, is a different category of evil than murder, right?
Not under your view because it meets your set of criteria.
I think like killing a embryo, killing a zygote is different from preventing fertilization. Like, and I think one is murder, and I think the other one's just a different kind of bad thing.
Exactly my point. So you don't just value just future possible sentience or future possible subjective experience. You value it once there's something that's valuable that exists in the first place or has existed in the past, which is not true for a zygote. It's not true for an embryo, right?
What is a zygote? What is a zygote?
A single cell organism that can separate.
Why does sentience have higher importance?
Why does it have higher importance? It's going to have a higher importance because it's going to match up with our intuitions, our moral intuitions on other matters. Like, for example, the brain dead scenario. In the brain dead scenario, they're cellularly alive.
Can I ask you a question?
Wait, hold on. Do you agree they're cellularly alive?
The brain dead individuals?
Yes.
Yes.
Yet it's not murder to pull the plug.
So brain dead is a really complicated circumstance because there are individuals that people thought were brain dead. There are people that they thought were brain dead and have woken up from that. This happened to multiple organ donors.
That's a misdiagnosis then. So I can agree that there's a misdiagnosis, but if there's someone's brain dead,
well, the whole idea of brain dead is a myth
back.
because the brain can't be actually dead, otherwise the rest of the body ceases to function.
The brain can't be dead, Chad. All dead humans have brains that are currently alive to this guy. What?
Okay, you know what I mean.
No, I don't.
Okay, so if the cells within the brain are functioning and there's neural activity that's happening, the brain is still alive, right?
So when we say brain death, we mean that they are not able to produce a subjective experience, right? Are you just saying that because there's neurons firing? But
what do you
even when
mean
they
by not
die,
being able
like
to produce
fully.
a subjective experience?
What's that?
What do you mean by not being able to produce a subjective experience? Because there's people that are comatose that are not able to produce a projective.
Yeah, we're talking about in the future. So again, the set of conditions I brought up was past or present and future subjective experience. Someone in a coma meets that set of criteria because they have both past experiences, subjective experiences, and future subjective experiences.
But you don't know that.
What?
There's many instances in which you don't know that.
What do you mean by don't know that? Well, I'm saying if there's any possible chance they come back, right, they have value.
Do you think that it would be immoral?
What do you dispute with that?
With what?
So again, under your view, because you just value cellular human life, it has to be murder for someone to pull the plug on an individual in their family that's brain dead. Practically no one agrees with that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. So okay, so there's something that's called like natural means of care, right? So if somebody falls on the ground and they start like bleeding, right? You have a duty to like get them an ice pack, take care of them, things like that, right? If somebody like your dad is sick and needs an artificial respiratory system to take care of them, it's something that we ought to do to the degree that we can, right?
Can I clarify? Did you vote for Donald Trump?
I did.
Okay, so the guy who was undermining access to universal health care, not expanding that, or child care, or
I can disagree with things that Trump does.
or practically any
Trump
other
is not
thing that
infallible, and I disagree with a lot of things
they're
that he's
outside of the
done.
room.
I disagree with a lot of things that Trump said.
I just want to clarify because that's not in accordance with the same position of, oh, I have an obligation to the members in my society. When you're cutting things like the VA, when you're cutting food stamps, when you're cutting social security,
He's also done bad things with
Medicare,
immigration
all
that I
those different
disagree with.
programs, you know who gets hurt? People that need things.
Right.
You want Social Security?
I'm not disagreeing with that. Can we
Social
please
Security, for
focus
example,
on the main topic?
I just want to clarify. Social Security, for example, has decreased seniorhood poverty by like so much, 50% when
really bad.
implemented. 50%
Yeah, it's really
when
bad.
implemented. That's incredibly important to address. And
Sure.
if that's an obligation that we have to people in society, if you are truly pro-life, you gotta care about people when they're outside of the womb as
Yeah,
well.
I think that we should do that. Okay, can we please focus on the main point because I agree with everything that you said.
But you didn't when you voted for Donald Trump.
What's up?
You didn't when you vote for Donald Trump.
I think that you can take the lesser of two evils, right? Guys, can we please focus on the main point?
I mean, we can go back to that after. I'd love to continue that conversation with you.
Sure,
Why do you
I think
Donald Trump
that
is better?
Kamala Harris is far more pro-abortion than Donald Trump is.
Okay, so far more pro-abortion. That's what he says. Okay.
Right. And I don't like Donald Trump's IVF stance.
Wait, actually, let me critique that. He wanted to pay for IVF, right?
Yeah, and I think that's bad.
Did you know that there's more people under your view that would die from paid IVF than there would be from abortion in America?
Yeah, and I think
Because
that's disgusting.
There's 6 to 7 plus zygotes and embryos that are created per patient.
IVF is
over
a grave evil.
300,000 patients in
IVF.
the United States every single year. So more zygotes and embryos will die under your worldview. Another question to ask.
I think IVF is a grave evil and should be stopped
But
immediately.
Donald Trump paying for IVF will inevitably lead to more people dying, zygotes and embryos, than would be leaving abortion up to the states.
It's
Which
not
actually
mutually
leaving
exclusive. I
abortion
think
to the
both
states
should be
has to reduce
illegal. I
abortion.
think both IVF and abortion should be illegal.
I understand, but what one's more preferable under your view? More people dying or less people dying?
I think less people dying is more often more
Paying
preferable.
for IVF leads to more people dying because there's way more zygotes and embryos that will be killed than abortions.
Yeah,
that
that's
will
why I
occur.
think IVF is a terrible evil.
Yeah, but Donald Trump paying for.
And I think
saying
that
he wants to.
I think him doing that was terrible and it made me very hesitant to vote for him.
But like,
and that almost stopped
lesser
me
of two
from voting.
evils, you have to say that the one that kills more is the more evil, right?
Right, but he actually hasn't done anything with that. And I think.
He wanted to
and do you
pay for
think?
IVF.
Do you think Kamala Harris was grossly IVF?
Was not? She didn't say like she wanted to pay for IVF.
Right, but we don't know that that would be the case. I also, again, my point
What?
is.
I'm just talking about what they ran on. Are you saying that what he runs on isn't actually what he believes?
Right. Again, can we please focus on the main issue? Right.
How is that not the main issue?
Sure. What were you gonna ask?
Wait, how is that not the main issue though?
Okay, so my question for you. Do you think men should be mandated to